Welcome to Screen Chat. I'm Neale Bastions, and this is the show where I sit around with friends and talk about film and television and pop culture. And this week, holy shit, the original band is back together. The OG Screen Chat crew. Welcome back, first of all, Simon Ovid.
Hey, everyone. How's it going?
Thanks for being here, Simon. And the other member of the OG gang here, Warren Nightingale.
I'm getting pretty comfortable in this seat, but this feels like a time warp. Look at this. Like this is episode 1.
This feels like episode 1 and episode 1A because the first week we the recording completely failed and we talked for an hour and a half and and got no usable audio out of it.
Are we actually recording right now?
We are right now. This is all perfect. It is
you did
working.
hit that button, right?
I did, and I can see we were picking up well.
Yeah,
it's actually picking up too hot. I might have to turn these mics down a bit.
Yeah, I'm leaning into it right now.
That's okay. We can afford to lean into it. I'm just going to turn the gain down a little bit.
There we go.
I guess we don't have to stop talking.
No, I can clip that all out. Yeah, you could have kept going, but no, it's okay. I can edit it all out so we can, through the magic of editing, I've gotten pretty good at this since episode 1. Yeah, so this week I thought it'd be kind of fun. We've got, at some point in the future, there's a new Batman movie in development, so a lot of the talk right now is who would be the new Batman or who's going to be the next Batman. And I don't even care about focusing on who's the Batman for this upcoming film. I thought it'd be fun just to talk about people that we think would make a good Batman. So by all means,
cool.
We'll kick out ones that we can pick an older Batman who's been doing this a few years. We can pick, a little younger Batmans, and then, maybe we'll kick around and we'll even bounce into like the extended Batman family, all the other characters. But yeah, I thought that might be fun, and I thought there was a good lineup here to get back here, the OG crew. So
I'm down with that.
You down with that?
Fun.
I thought you would be. And Warren's even wearing a Batman shirt here. This is once again, I always love to bring in the visual component of the audio nature of podcasting and describe what the guests are wearing. But hey,
Nice.
What the hell?
Well, it was just in a natural rotation of what was, the T-shirt that was on top. I went, oh, isn't that timely?
Is that how you pick?
Yeah,
Just whatever's on top?
Here, what's next? It's like a treat. It's kind of like, oh, what's the next video on my list of videos I'm going to watch? Oh, hey, look at that. That's going to be, so today is Rogues Gallery. So
Well done. Well played.
Oh, bravo.
yeah. I certainly didn't plan it.
No. When you walked in, I was saying, oh, he dressed for the occasion.
Yeah.
He's wearing the shirt of the band we're going to see.
Yeah. Woo!
All right, so hey, Simon, you want to kick it off? You got any ideas?
Well, I still like the idea of Michael Keaton making a comeback as Batman.
Simon jumped right to the end because that was what I was going to throw in later. I love this idea that's been kicked around, the idea of making a Batman film that would be like the older Batman.
Mm-hmm. I like the concept. Like, there's two concepts I would like. I would like to see how, like, the Dark Knight Returns, like, I would like to see Michael Keaton's take on it. It doesn't have to be the Dark Knight Returns, but I would like to see that kind of premise. But also, there's always been talks about Michael Keaton being, of course, the older Bruce Wayne to Batman Beyond.
Shit, Simon's giving all the stuff away that I had already written down.
My bad.
No, not your bad. Great minds think alike, and fools seldom differ. Carry on.
But at the same time, it's like I know there's a lot of great actors and soon to be upcoming actors that could be suitable for the role. But there's just one guy that really stands out for me. I think his name is either Ken or Kevin Porter.
Okay, well, hold on there. Time out. Back up. Let's not jump off the Michael Keaton thing here. Let's chew this bone a bit.
I want to jump in on that a little bit too.
Go, Warren.
My bad.
No.
What I would love about that is just, sort of doing a contrast to when he was first announced back in the late 80s that he was going to be Batman, just how many people just lost their mind that, there's going to be a comedian being Batman.
Oh, they lost their freaking minds on that.
Well,
it's like the internet broke before it was invented.
Exactly.
Because if that was done in the internet era, that would be one of these things of people freaking out.
Yeah, Twitter was sort of like, throughout time is still feeling reverberations of that, of what people would have said at that time. And so it would be kind of interesting to see that as a contrast, like how much time later, as well as, kind of the impact of social media in the announcement of that. So I think that would be kind of interesting. And of course, too, then he would be playing Batman a third time, which then would, be as many as...
Tie for the record with Christian Bale.
Exactly.
I like the idea, like there's sort of two ideas there that I like the idea that they've already done some of Dark Knight Returns. They've already riffed on it somewhat in Batman versus Superman and that, but there's more stuff to be mined out there. They don't have to do it by rote, but just do and that idea of, an older, Batman's retired and he has to come back out of retirement for one last fight, Rocky Balboa style here. And I think Keaton be cool with that. And the other idea you brought up, Simon, was one that I was like, and I'm going to sound really smart when I say this, but you beat me to the punch here. You beat me to the batarang. But I wish we could have a bam on the screen. There's not a screen. I'm back to the visual shit, man.
Are you making a video here?
I think you guys don't see the hidden camera. It's in that light stand.
All in good time, you'll have that.
Yeah, but that idea, I thought that'd be a cool idea too. If they did a Batman Beyond movie with a younger kid playing a future and have a reincarnation of Batman and have Michael Keaton as the older Bruce Wayne who mentors a young person to be Batman, that Gotham needs Batman again. That would be a really cool thing.
I already have a visual how the Batman Beyond movie, if I were to do it already. But the thing is like everyone's starting to like the idea more of Michael Keaton. And that's the impression I'm getting right now.
There's a Keaton renaissance. People, he's making one of those great Hollywood comebacks, and
most of his movies has been very impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone was impressed with him when Spider-Man for being the Vulture.
Yep.
Was he in the recent RoboCop movie? Was he in that one?
He was that terrible RoboCop movie.
But I would
not
say
mention that one.
Even before with like Birdman, like he really,
Birdman.
he just was, he really captured that idea of that sort of, in this case, an actor, but that sort of aging person reflecting on life of, am I regretting where I'm at and the choices I've made and, all the things I did not, all the boxes I did not check, which I think would be a very good, storyline.
Yeah, and it could kind of be a cool riff if he was doing the Batman Beyond thing. There's some cool stuff to mine there that say, like you're saying, him looking back at the life he didn't live, and he dedicated his whole life to his war on crime and passed up so many things, and then to see him viewing Terry McGinnis as kind of a surrogate son, much like he had surrogate sons in the past in the various Robins. But then going down that exact same road again, of repeating that mistake again, of going back to the war on crime, it just being this thing that it's almost like an alcoholic that keeps, when he can't open the bottle again, and when he does, he's right back into it. There could be something cool there.
2 movies right now with those 2 ideas.
Right there.
You have that one premise it's going to be that one big fight.
That one last fight.
That will lead into Batman Beyond.
And then that could come back as a sequel.
Yes.
Here we go. Warner Brothers. Let's get the money here. We got a writer's room right here.
Yeah.
We got a director. Let's roll.
We got a pot of coffee.
Exactly. Warner Brothers, just send the checks. All right. Well, I cut you off there a few minutes ago, Simon. You had a younger actor, you said?
Well, I would say he's probably middle age, but my take would be this gentleman. I want to remember him as either Ken or Kevin Porter from Bat in the Sun.
Bat in the Sun.
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with this.
It's this fan page where they do like the heroes versus other heroes or other villains.
Okay.
And this guy, he played the Punisher. He did Negan, but he's more known for Batman.
So he's like he hasn't been in a lot of movies or TV. It's more like he's an indie type person.
Type of person.
Internet actor.
And he did one where it's like Batman versus Darth Vader.
Really?
Yeah, which is a wicked one. There's 2 endings to that one. But the thing is, like his premise portrayed as Batman is amazing. Like his voice mannerisms, the way they have the costume designed for him, pure comic book.
No.
And I would say, like, if there's ever a chance to give this man a chance with the mantle, I say give it to him.
Going with an unknown,
Exactly.
Basically an unknown in this case might be a great idea because then it takes the steam off. You have no preconceptions coming into it, and you just give someone a freedom to,
I agree. Like going to somebody with unknown is always awesome because then you could really lean into the villain being somebody of name, right? And that always, brings out people to really enjoy the film. And of course, it also sort of sets the table to be like, oh my God, like here's somebody I'm just getting to know, and just subconsciously versus here's an actor who've been chewing it up for years. Or
with an unknown too, it sets the table for that person to like hit it right out of the park.
Yeah, own the role.
And that where we have not totally blow us away. Where if you cast an existing person, we're already looking at their other performances, and this is going to be awesome. And then if it's not exactly what we want, but with an unknown, it's totally unknown. Yeah, cool. Great idea.
Yeah.
Great.
No, that's the thing, because as for a younger person, it's more like how young are we talking about? Are we talking about Batman just learning the ropes of being Batman, or are we talking about 5 years into being Batman?
We can say anything here. This is a wide open. Let's leave no ideas off the table here.
If they play, I'm not saying that they should. Warner Brothers should play their cards right, but as you know, Gotham is coming up to an end pretty soon, and the actor who plays him, like this, might be an opportunity to expand on him into the movies, probably.
You know what? I watched like 3 episodes of it in the first season, and it just wasn't my cup of coffee. So I just turned it out. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Were you big into it?
I was big into it. I still like it. I like the even it feels like the premise should have been more of a cop show still. Mm-hmm. But
you know what? When I initially heard they were going to call it Gotham, and I didn't even think there was going to be a Bruce Wayne character, I thought they were going to do like a police procedural with Jim Gordon, and I was interested in that. And then when I tuned in, and it was sort of like this: what if Batman was 12 years old? Mm-hmm. But then it's like they slowly started bringing all the villains, and I'm like, well, by the time this version of Batman grows up, he's going to be beating up a bunch of senior citizens because they've introduced all the villains as adults when he's still 10.
And they already messed up with the Joker storyline already.
Didn't they bring like 3 Jokers in or something?
Something like that. I know I'm at least 4 episodes behind, but I just seen the ramifications because of that. I'm like, it's just amazing how some TV shows could actually botch certain things. But I think for the actor who plays Bruce Wayne, this might be an opportunity. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, and anything's on the table.
That's the thing, and there's so much more we could do with.
Okay, well, Warren, do you got one?
Well, if
throw your first name in the hat here.
Yeah, which one do I want to go with? You know what? Since we started with an old one, an older actor, I'm going to start with an older actor, and of course, he was already. This might be kind of strange, just simply because he did sort of make a cameo as, Bruce Wayne's dad.
Oh, I know where you're going.
Yeah, but I would lean into Jeffrey Dean Morgan, just because what I like about the character of Batman, of course, and right now I'll totally acknowledge the fact that you guys have way deeper knowledge of this as a universe than I do, because my access to the character really is through the show as growing up as a kid and then through the movies. But what I always liked about the character was that sort of struggle and tension between trying to do good and be good and then acknowledging the darker side and try to resolve that. And so you have this real, human as a superhero who is really struggling with that as a storyline. And something I always find in all of Jeffrey Dean Morgan's performances is sort of that balance of, he's really charismatic and charming, and you can see him, having success in any kind of world, whether it be corporate or whatever. But also there's something brewing underneath where he can kind of explode at any moment. There's something deeper there that sort of resonates. And of course he's played characters who can be extremely explosive. But at the same time, he's also played lots of characters that are extremely charming. Mm-hmm. And so I would go with that. And I loved when I saw him do that cameo. I'm like, yeah, he is a perfect character of a...
Now, would you refer him as Bruce Wayne, or would you want him to be a Thomas Wayne?
Well, let's say if the movie was going to be like a Thomas Wayne movie, mm-hmm. then absolutely 100%. I would say he would be
Flashpoint,
perfect. Exactly,
or New 52 Earth 2.
If you were to all of a sudden take a dive in that world, mm-hmm. then I would want to see that movie with him as that character. But
it's funny you say that, because there was this picture that was out online.
Yeah,
it was a picture of Jeffrey Dean Morgan as the Flashpoint Batman.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And to be honest, I don't care if it's photoshopped or how they cropped it or what. The costume looked awesome on it. And I'm like, I can see this. I can see if they want to tap into other universes right now. This might be it. Once again, this is another opportunity.
Yeah, and so that's where I would go with my first pick out of my head would be that one, just because I think that would be a really cool adventure.
Oh, totally. I can see that.
Cool. Well, I'm going to kick it back a little bit younger. You guys have in mind a couple of good older ones there. One that sticks out for me that I think is someone that's probably going to break out as an action star in the next couple of years is Richard Madden, who played Robb Stark on Game of Thrones.
Oh,
and this will just be the first of many times I go to the Game of Thrones today.
Yeah.
I've seen that he's in a show now called The Bodyguard.
Okay.
I have not seen it, but he's like got his hair cut short now, so he's not like he's not like in a fantasy setting anymore. And he looks pretty good. Like when you give him a more contemporary look, he would work as a Bruce Wayne in the expensive suits, and he looks like he could be an action guy. And I think he was a decent actor on Game of Thrones. And I think he might be, he's that young, if they're looking for a young up and coming, like, a guy that's going to break into film now out of the television world, I think that's a way that you could go.
And it's funny you say that, because I was kicking that around in my head too, and just the the arc of his character on there of sort of inheriting this sort of world that was given to him because of the death of his father, and now he has to kind of react, and it is quite the arc to see in him the strength that he brings to that character. From you really do feel that in Game of Thrones. You see him start out as a boy, and then you see him as King of the North, as everyone proclaims around.
The first King of the North.
Yeah,
and that's a good premise right there for him to channel that kind of character, bring into Batman. But well, here's one for you guys, and I just thought of it just now since we're all doing this.
Yeah, fire it out there.
Like, throw it back. Okay, how about someone who was Batman but not Bruce Wayne? And I'm not talking about Terry McGinnis.
Okay,
Who? Fire it.
How about we get the old Robin, Chris O'Donnell, to reprise to be Batman?
That could be interesting.
Well, I seen him in NCIS Los Angeles, and to me, he's still looks good for a man of his age, relatively good shape. Like, reprise his role as Dick Grayson, but take on the mantle as Batman. Like this.
Oh, so you're saying like do the graduated thing of like when Dick Grayson became
Exactly.
Batman?
Go back to that world and.
Now, do you set it?
So would it be?
Do you set it back in that sort of continuity?
Yeah, would it have a lineage to that, or?
I don't know how we would do it. Like for me, it's more like I like the idea of it. To me, it would be like it has to be a story arc where Bruce Wayne was either missing or Bruce Wayne's infamous disappearing act, and he's doing some sort of mission.
Huh.
And you see Chris O'Donnell, being Dick Grayson, and Dick Grayson, just like in the comic books, maybe you see him struggling being Batman. Oh, I don't know if I could do this. There's like maybe 3 story arcs, I think, where Dick Grayson carried the mantle before. All great story arcs, but at the same time, it's like there's another way to touch on it, like a little bit of throwback, with Chris O'Donnell.
Wow.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
Oh yeah,
especially since kind of the by the time Chris O'Donnell came around, the films of the '90s kind of lost steam a little bit, and so it'd be kind of interesting to come back and try and pick it up from there.
Did you know that Christian Bale was also high on the list considered for that Robin role that Chris O'Donnell ended up getting?
Oh, really? Back in the '90s?
Way.
Christian Bale tested for that part and was 3rd or 4th down the list.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah, how's that wacky for coming back around, eh?
Yeah, wow.
Because if that happened, you never would have had him as Nolan's Batman.
Exactly.
So what different world would we be living in now? Just weird. Another one I'll throw out there just for a second here is someone that actually, almost with an asterisk, played Batman already. Armie Hammer.
Yeah, he's on my list too.
Armie Hammer was Batman cast as Batman in a movie called Justice League Mortal. They had costumes, they had sets and everything, and because of the writer's strike, it was put on hold and then never went into production.
No way.
So it was stopped I think it was 2 weeks short of production, and everybody was cast and everything was going to go. And George Miller from Mad Max fame was the director.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So think of that world that 15 or
fun.
10 or 12 years ago, I think it was, there was almost a Justice League movie directed by, and I forget who the rest of the cast was, but directed by George Miller with Armie Hammer as Batman.
Wow, that's got Mad Max meets Justice League.
And there was I think there was a Green Lantern in it, and a Flash, and a Wonder Woman, and a Superman, and I don't remember, I should have looked up who was all that cast, but Armie Hammer was the Batman.
Yeah, and I think Armie Hammer, of course,
physically he's very tall. He's about 6'4".
Exactly, and very cut,
and
but he does have that Bruce Wayne kind of swagger, to play that sort of very rich character that you kind of see in Social Network or even in Call Me by Your Name. But in those characters, you can see him, being very comfortable with Bruce Wayne. But I could see him in the Batsuit physically. I guess is where I was going, even from his, big cut chin to the way his body type is. I could see him being a menacing Batman when he puts on the suit.
Absolutely. You got another one, Simon?
Oh, I'm just drumming up. There's it's almost like where to start now. Because I know there's we all know there's a lot of upcoming actors right now. But it's funny, ever since Ben Affleck decided not to continue on and so forth, it's amazing how everyone's already jumping the gun to, hey, this is an opportunity for Christian Bale to come back.
I can't really see that.
I can't see that happening now. It's been too long.
I think the Christian Bale, like the Nolan one, was two really good movies, and it was a very cool, grounded take on the character. But we're now living in a world where, when those were made, superhero movies were just kind of sort of coming back.
Right.
And so that grounded take was really cool, where now in this world, we've now had 10 years of Marvel movies and the DC movies where people are looking at things like Aquaman and Wonder Woman and all the Marvel stuff and Guardians of the Galaxy and Thors and all these things, to where audiences will accept superheroes that are basically ripped right out of the comics page, so we don't need to sort of walk that line. I love that grounded take. I'm a big fan of the first two Nolan films, but we can have a more comic booky Batman that doesn't have to live in that grounded, this could almost be the real world, you know? So, and Christian Bale will always be tied to that.
Like, when it comes to that, I would love to see more gadgets from Batman. Like the one thing I'll say, like in I think it was Batman and Robin, like when you see the intro, you see that wall of weaponry that the old Batman and Robin had. I would like to see more gadgets. If there's ever a Joker in these future movies again, I would like to see, you know, Joker throwing the marble grenades and more acid in the flower bit. Like, you know, I want to see some more comic book pages thrown in there.
But I would like to see, and this is going on a bit of a tangent from casting, but if I was going to see a complete thing, if you were going to make something right out of the box that they would, like, you know, they'll try anything.
Right.
I would love to see a Batman movie that is actually a detective movie. Like, write a detective mystery story that just happens to be with Batman, and do it like on a low budge, like 40 million, and do it like film noir style, where he's actually solving a mystery.
I think it'd be interesting if you do it as a throwback to the comics. Of
and it's not as a superhero.
That's the aesthetic.
Not a superhero movie where it's like you got to fight the villain, and Act 3 there has to be a sky beam and whatever. Be a detective story.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I could have sworn I read an article not too long ago saying, like, why couldn't they do an actual detective storyline for Batman? Because, like, we all know, like as much as Batman is, you know, superhero, Justice League, whatever, but he's still a detective.
Yep.
So I would like to see an actual detective mystery movie.
And you know what? Tying it back to your suggestion earlier of that internet actor guy. So if you're bringing in an unknown, he obviously can't ask for multi-millions of dollars. So you could keep that budget down to like $30-40 million. And then the return on it, like, you know, you've got the Batman name on it and Warner Brothers promote it. That could be a movie with a huge return on investment.
And maybe the return of the Mad Monk, or is it the Red Monk?
But yeah, no. So just a thing like that.
Totally. Like
I would love to see an actual detective story.
I would be totally open to an actual detective storyline.
You got another one, Warren?
Yeah. I'll go with Theo James.
Theo James. Who's Theo James?
He's an actor from the Divergent series. If we're going younger, I can see him. And I couldn't necessarily say like a wealth of his background in his acting, but he is somebody who, in that series, he plays like his character's name is Four, and he plays like the sort of the love interest of the main character, who's kind of a bit of a mentor / love interest, and he's somebody who is very likable, very physical, and I can see, you know, if you're looking at casting somebody, let's say under, I'm not sure how old he exactly is, but I'm assuming he's under 30, that he would be, you know, someone who could sort of lift that mantle. So that would be one of my picks, but I'm not sure if there's going to be a whole lot there to talk about.
No, hey,
you know, if you guys aren't
setting it back a young, I'm not too familiar with them.
So
I'm going to kick one out that will have another one. I'm going to go back to the Game of Thrones well.
Okay.
And I would say Kit Harington that plays Jon Snow.
Oh.
I think he's going to be huge when Game of Thrones is done. And you cut his hair and shave that beard. I think you've seen him in some TV commercials, obviously dressed up like he does, like, you know, Dolce & Gabbana commercials and stuff like that, where they dress him in suits and you go, I can see you being a Bruce Wayne. And I could see him, you know, through some action stuff. I could see him being a Batman.
See, I see him, to be honest, I see him more of a Nightwing, to be honest, because I think he would make an awesome Nightwing.
Well, you know what? There's an interesting turn.
Yeah. Well,
okay. Then let's chew that bone a bit. Then Nightwing. Yeah. What if we do, instead of let's skip a Batman movie? What if we did a Nightwing movie?
Oh, I
would love that. I would love to see
where that. You know, let's just have Batman mentioned at, like, you know, he can be mentioned in character. Like, yeah, I graduated from Batman, but it doesn't have to be Batman in the movie. It's not like this is not the sidekick. This is a Nightwing movie.
Yeah, where he sort of adopts the mantle.
And Kit Harington as Nightwing.
Well, see, I think that would be awesome. I think he would fit that character
quite well. Yeah. What do you think that movie looks like? Plot-wise, look-wise?
I think it will be Dick Grayson making a name for himself as usual, like this type of Nightwing. You can see him struggling, trying to put the Robin behind him. He's trying to put Gotham behind him. You see him having flashbacks with arguing with Bruce Wayne in the Batcave. Just a guy who just wants to leave everything behind him and just be his own man. I want to see that kind of story arc.
What kind of style do you think this movie has?
I would have to say
more comic booky or more edgy, sort of like in the vein of like those Nolan grounded ones.
I would actually say I would like to see comic book wise, but I think it has to be like a little hint of a CW college year TV show kind of thing.
Okay.
Where it's like not really campy, but you see it with an everyday life, but also at the same time the nightlife is like literally day and night. Where it's like you see the danger of nighttime that he's going through, and you see him trying to make an honest living in the daytime kind of thing.
Well, he was a cop, wasn't he?
He was a cop.
Yeah.
It was in Volume 1 of Nightwing, and he was a cop for a while. So you see him try to do different gigs, but somehow it led him to try out to be a policeman. It didn't last long, but at the same time, even that could be a good arc too. For a possible Nightwing movie, because I noticed a lot of my other friends who read Nightwing, they kind of prefer the Volume 1 of Nightwing where he was a cop, and you get to see him indulge more. You see him use the crime computers in the police station, but at the same time, it's more like you just see him trying to just put things behind him and just try to move forward.
You just scratched my brain actually, because what I'm hearing, which I think is really interesting, is the fact that here's a character who's inheriting a world he certainly didn't create, that is far more complex than his mentor had to deal with, and yet he's still in that shadow of how he sort of is trying to live up to not only himself but to how others would perceive him, trying to do the right thing.
Well, and that's the thing, because we all, like everyone knows with Dick Grayson, he's always going to be the number one sidekick to Batman, and that's the thing that's always been foreshadowing. He's always been the sidekick.
Yeah.
You don't hear too much about Jason Todd. You don't hear too much about Tim Drake. You don't hear too much about Damian. But somehow, with Dick Grayson, it just bothers the crap out of him, during that time period. So I always like the idea of being your own man as a story arc. And it just plays out well with them.
And I think there's something very contemporary about that. Here's in the world that's as younger people are inheriting, it's a little more complex than just good versus bad.
Oh yeah, you throw in the sins of the father. You throw in you look at Nightwing's career with the Titans too. He has a chance to be a leader with the Teen Titans that became Titans, and that's something that Batman didn't really do either. So you see Dick Grayson taking on such a role that surpasses Batman. But at the same time, Kit or even Chris O'Donnell.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw another one in there then, if we're on the Nightwing kick here.
Okay.
What about taking it a little bit different? And I know you're both familiar with The Walking Dead. What about Steven Yeun from Walking Dead and having an Asian character, an Asian actor play Nightwing?
That would be really nice to see.
I don't know if he has a martial arts background, but imagine doing it sort of as a kung fu movie almost, and lean a lot more into the martial arts.
Oh, I think he could do it. I think, of course, the character Glenn isn't that character, but as an actor, I can see him moving on. And I haven't really watched too much of what he's done since The Walking Dead, but I know he's got some buzz around the idea of it being a little bit darker
right now. Yeah. So, but it'll be interesting too, because a lot of people, once again, it's one of those websites that I usually read on. Steven Yeun has been mentioned about taking the role as Nightwing too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're just throwing names out there, because I know everyone's all looking forward to diversity and so forth, and to me, as long as they bring the character to life, that's what counts for me now.
Mm-hmm.
But,
well, because there's nothing inherent about Dick Grayson's character that says Caucasian.
No.
He's just a kid that he was an acrobat, family got circus acrobat, family killed and taken in, by a billionaire benefactor to, help him, raise him.
Yeah.
So there's nothing there that says Caucasian.
Well, in that vein, another person I would throw out there, and this, I would say for Batman, and not necessarily to cast him, with Robin in that sense, but Henry Golding, who was in Crazy Rich Asians this summer, I can see him being a great Bruce Wayne.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Okay,
Certainly the character of Nick Young was very comfortable in that, and I think I remember it may have been you and I chatting and saying he'd be a great James Bond.
Yep.
But I think you could also twist that into a little bit of a Bruce Wayne.
You would have to torque the character of Batman a little bit there, the Bruce Wayne in the background.
Yeah.
Because I think as it stands, being that he comes from generational wealth.
Yeah.
The only old money in America is white money. So in that regard, it's hard. But you could, the Waynes could have married in. He could have married and have some Asian ethnicity.
Or there's all kinds of
And you can change the character. You can reimagine.
You can reimagine for the modern day,
Yeah.
right? All of a sudden, there's.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I think we're at a point where we're slowly getting there of modern day stuff. But the one thing I'll give a little shout out to about the Crazy Rich Asians, that was a brilliant movie.
I loved it.
fun?
Yeah, it was really
a
fun.
brilliant movie.
Yeah.
But I just have to say, what's your
Line of the year last year in movies? Bok bok, bitch. I love that line. It kills me.
But what I said,
but I would love to see like a Nightwing movie. But like the fighting has always been good in these movies, like the action scenes. But imagine bringing in like Hong Kong fight choreographers and do a Nightwing action film in that style with that
would be a lot.
Yeah. Like imagine if Nightwing was fighting like the Yakuza or something like that, or you say like they, and so you have like make up some excuse of why there's a whole bunch of like martial artists in Bloodhaven and have like one of those style action sequences, like with tons of kung fu and stuff like that in that Hong Kong style.
Which makes me think of that animation film, which I never did catch. I'm not sure if we got it, but did anybody see that
Batman Ninja?
Batman Ninja, yeah.
I
did.
Was
See that?
brilliant.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah.
I love what they did with Jason Todd with that one.
Really?
Oh yeah, like it was a great story to follow, but the animation was amazing.
Yeah, I loved it. It was pretty good style. I'm struggling to remember the story now, so maybe for me it was a little bit forgettable, but just the style of it, the look of it was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And now, did you guys see that? You must have caught it online or something, because I don't remember that coming here at all.
It might be on Netflix.
Oh, really?
It's either I watched it on
one of the
TV.
streaming services.
So I watched it on demand.
Okay, you know what? Maybe I rented it then. Maybe I saw it on demand and rented it.
No, but it was a brilliant movie. And like when you mentioned about like Hong Kong style, there was a character in once again Nightwing comic book where it was like some sort of ninja assassin that was hunting down Nightwing, and I like the choreography scenes in the comic books because it's interesting to see how the artists try to put like side kicks and jump kicks.
Yep.
And how Nightwing is an acrobat and fighting skills like Batman. Like, wow.
Well, yeah, making him a totally different fighting style than Batman with his acrobatic background. And maybe you bring a character in and say that he's trained in a lot more, he's physically smaller than Batman. So instead of being that sort of bulk, the heavy puncher, he's like, a Bruce Lee style fighter. But just you hit on an interesting idea. They're like, okay, so what if you have a story where Nightwing in Bloodhaven has busted up like a local crime ring that is the Yakuza trying to move in, and so when they go, well, we can't beat him because he's so good martial arts, so they just bring in a whole bunch of ninjas or kung fu guys or whatever that are basically you make a movie where these guys are fighting, and you have you either you guys seen the Raid movies?
Yes.
The Raid movies? Yeah. Like have one of those long ass fight scenes where it's like Nightwing, basically, they set a trap for him, and he knows it's a trap, but he's got to fight his way through a whole building floor by floor, and you have like a whole 40 minutes of film that is basically a non-stop kung fu fight.
If they're going to do that, they better give him a hallway fight scene.
Exactly, like a hallway. That's what I'm saying. Like you could have multiple hallways in there where he just takes on the things. Hallways are the new thing in action movies.
Even a fight scene on the fire escape ladder.
Something, and just one of those long ass one takes, or even if it's a seamed fake one take, but just like one long.
And the best part,
beating dudes down up through a whole succession of stuff.
The best part about the Batman world is there's a lot of ninja groups that we could use. Like we could use Lady Shiva. We could use like the Shadow Group from Ra's al Ghul, but there is like multiple gangs that they do use up in Bloodhaven, and but at the same time, like it'll be just amazing to see something like that. Like maybe once again, it's something they should tap into.
Maybe. You mentioned Ra's al Ghul there. Mm-hmm. Are we done chewing on Nightwing here? Or you got more?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Let's do
that
it.
just popped in my brain, Ra's al Ghul, because when I was thinking through stuff, and I thought of. If we got back to like a Batman movie, if we did another take on Ra's al Ghul, and in the comics, was he Middle Eastern? Judging from the name, I think he was supposed to be from the Mideast.
I would like to think so.
Because I think Ra's al Ghul is Arabic or something for head of the demon. And in the Nolan films, they sort of drifted towards more, it was possibly Asian or maybe like ethnic ambiguous.
My impression with the Nolan one is more like someone who takes on the mantle of Ra's al
Yeah.
Ghul. Like
Yeah.
Ra's al
Okay,
Ghul.
but
That's
what if
right,
we did
yeah.
the actual comic book Ra's al Ghul where he's actually, basically functionally immortal? And he uses the Lazarus pits to stay immortal, okay?
I was about to ask, are we going to have Lazarus pits?
Might as well. Okay, so I thought of, are you familiar with the actor Mark Strong?
I heard of the name.
Where would he be from?
He has played in, oh, damn it. He was in that terrible Green Lantern movie
Okay.
under a bunch of CG that we don't need to remember. He's played...
Was he Sinestro?
He was the Sinestro guy. He's played in... bring him up, Warren, because now I'm also drawing a blank. He played in like this Leo DiCaprio Mideast CIA thriller thing. I don't know if he's fully of Middle Eastern descent, but I think he's of that. You know who I'm talking about? Show his picture to Simon.
Yeah. He was in the Kingsman as
He was in Kingsman. Yeah, he played Kingsman. He was like the mentor character, or like the guy in the chair.
The
Okay.
guy is the guy in the chair for in Kingsman.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But he plays, if you see
He
him
was
in
one of the instructors.
yes,
That's
if
right,
you see him in some other roles, he can play menacing pretty good, but I think believable in that, where Ra's al Ghul's not like a mustache twisting villain. He has
in Kick-Ass?
He might have been. He was in Kick-Ass too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think he could be a really cool Ra's al Ghul.
I could just picture him wearing that green robe already.
Yeah,
And,
some riff on it.
and then a nice George Jefferson cul-de-sac wig with the...
Don't even screw the wig. I would say he looks better bald. You don't have to look right off the
bald
page.
is beautiful, so... Yeah.
But yeah, that was a character I thought. And one other one that would be a way outlier if you were going to go smaller, though. Do you remember? His name was Farhan Tahir. He was in the first Iron Man film. He played the leader of the terrorist group that captured Iron Man.
Yes.
That they
Oh,
sort
at
of
the very
hinted
beginning,
might be the
yeah.
Mandarin, but then they
Yeah.
went a total different way in the subsequent films.
Yeah.
That guy was pretty good at being menacing, and I thought, I don't know, we haven't seen a lot of him. I don't know if he'd have, what kind of range he has.
I could see him being the tougher version of Ra's al Ghul, but the gentleman you mentioned, Mark Strong. I
Yeah.
could see him like...
Mark Strong's my favorite pick.
Yeah,
for
I
Ra's.
could see him more doing that because he has that certain charm when he's talking, like that swagger.
Yeah.
He's that in your face. Kind
Yeah,
of
I think Mark Strong is the superior pick of this two.
Mm-hmm.
Do you? I know I just threw that one out there. You guys got any possible Razes or?
I want him to play Ra's al Ghul, but giving an offer to Nightwing to be his side since Bruce Wayne said no.
Bruce Wayne rejected it?
Nightwing says no. Next thing you know, Ra's al Ghul sends his goons after him in Bloodhaven.
Sends the
There you go.
League of
There you go.
Assassins.
Yeah.
No one says no to Ra's al Ghul and gets away with it.
There we go. We got our storyline.
And continuing on that with that one, I also had a Talia al Ghul. I actually have two Talia al Ghuls. One would be Morena Baccarin. You familiar with Morena Baccarin? She was in. You should be familiar with Simon. Did you watch Firefly?
Yes.
Yeah, she was. She was Nathan Fillion's love interest on Firefly.
Oh, no way.
And she played in Gotham, so you should be familiar with her from there.
Yes.
She was the love interest in Deadpool.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh
okay.
yeah, that's a great choice.
Yeah, and I think she is of Middle Eastern descent. She's
Yeah.
got the look, a very exotic look that Talia should have. Another option is, and I'm going to bungle this name, Dina Shihabi. She plays on. I've seen her recently on the Jack Ryan TV show on Amazon Prime.
Oh, okay.
And she's really good. And she's so that's just another one. I'm trying to think of. When I started doing Al Ghul, I started looking through actresses of Middle Eastern descent, and they got that really exotic look, and they're both gorgeous. But
They have to be gorgeous and deadly.
You beat me to it by like half a second. They're gorgeous and deadly, but I think either of them could fill a role there.
I do like your pick about Marina. She was in Homeland, and I really enjoyed her.
Yes, she was in Homeland as well.
and-
Yep.
Yeah.
I totally forgot she was in Homeland.
Yeah.
Well, let's stay with the ladies. Catwoman. What do you think they should do for Catwoman?
Ooh.
Do you want me to throw out a couple and it gives you guys time to think on something?
Sure.
Okay. My first one pick here was Natalie Emmanuel, who played on Game of Thrones. She plays Missandei.
Oh, okay.
Khaleesi's handmaiden lady.
Yeah.
I thought she could be a really interesting Catwoman.
Oh, wow.
She's great on there. I've seen her in a few other things. I'm struggling to remember now. She was in one of the bad Fast and the Furious movies, but I've liked her.
She'd be a good pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, she'd be a really good pick, actually. Which also makes me think of the guy who she's always playing off of.
The guy that plays Grey Worm.
Yeah, Grey Worm.
I don't have his name here handy.
Oh, God.
What would you think of him for?
Jacob Anderson. That's his name.
Jacob Anderson, yes.
Yeah, that's his name. I would put him as Robin. I think
you know what? Interesting idea.
I think he would be a great Robin.
Yes.
Which Robin, though?
I'm still staying with Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
He's the one I'm most familiar with.
Yeah.
The only time I would go outside of that is if you were going to do like Red Hood, so then you'd bring up, is that Todd? Jason Todd?
Jason Todd.
Yeah, but then you'd have to set up the whole thing.
Yeah.
But no, that's interesting.
Sorry, it just
go.
No. Again, it's just as you're talking about that, I'm like, oh, you know what? He would actually be quite good. Because in Game of Thrones, I enjoy both of them together, and of course, I'm sure if you look at Game of Thrones, you could probably cast all those guys. And
I do have other Games of Thrones people on
in this
here.
universe, since we've gone to the well quite a few times already with those guys. I'm sure you could probably do the entire universe made out of Game of Thrones cast and have a lot of fun with that.
Okay,
hey, why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
Now let's back off a bit here. Jim Gordon. Who do you think could play? Do you have any ideas for a Jim Gordon? Am I throwing you guys right under the bus here?
I keep on thinking branching off with the people from Gotham, but at the same time, TV actors transitioning to movies is really sometimes a hit and a miss.
Yeah, and I'd rather well, and I don't know if they're going to continue Gotham. If you branch from one direct version of it to another, you risk confusion. Mm-hmm. Here, I'm going to throw out one that I think is going to... Oh, go ahead.
Bryan Cranston, for me, would be...
Exactly. I've written right there, Bryan Cranston.
Yeah,
I was literally about to say Bryan Cranston because I want to scratch your brain word.
There we go. That's the only person that, I was just like, I couldn't get him out of my mind. As you mentioned who I would cast, would be him. I think he'd be perfect.
Okay, well, then I don't even
have to debate the glasses, the mustache.
All that. Yeah. And just that sort of demeanor and delivery of lines and all those pieces, I could see that. Yeah, I can't see anybody else right now.
That's basically,
Well, and that's the thing. I can't think of anybody else because we went from a younger Gordon, and now we got the older Jim Gordon, and it's like, well, who could we get? And it's like, Bryan Cranston.
Yeah. I think it would be awesome. I think the only problem with him is that he wouldn't be in it enough.
No,
it's not a big enough role that you really want a movie where you want to give Bryan Cranston a lot more because he's such an awesome actor and he gets so dig into some stuff there, but he would not be the focal character. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, did you have anybody who'd be like, okay, well, probably wouldn't be a Bryan Cranston role, but do you have anybody else?
Not really. Bryan Cranston was the one I thought of, and it's like a very marquee name, but it's like he'd be so awesome as it.
Oh, cool.
Sticking with the more side characters, Alfred. Now, there's two versions of Alfred.
Okay.
There's the traditional older butler Alfred.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then there's that they'd introduced, I think it was in, I don't know if it was in those Earth 2 versions or something, or Earth 1 books that did Simon. You'd be more familiar with it.
Earth 1 Batman.
The idea that
Alfred was the trainer.
Alfred,
really?
Yeah. He's a former SAS and British intelligence officer.
Oh my God, that'd be awesome.
And the idea was that at some point in the past, Thomas and Martha Wayne were doing missionary work or something.
Yes.
In dangerous areas, and he was their assigned bodyguard. Like, he was British SAS, and he had retired and was now like their bodyguard. And that then, I think in the comic, the idea was he was injured. His leg might have been blown off or something, or he was badly injured, and Thomas Wayne saved him. So basically, he has not literally a life debt to him, but he basically then becomes his bodyguard for life because he's like, you saved my life, and I'm going to come work for you as your full-time bodyguard. Yeah. And then, so when the Waynes died, there was no one Thomas Wayne would trust to raise his son but this guy. And then he just took on the role of butler to be in their life. They're sort of a little bit under the radar. He's their butler, but he's really not a butler. He's actually like a bodyguard and like I said, like a retired British spy.
Mm-hmm. I like that concept because I know they touched on it in that book, Earth 1 Batman. Mm-hmm. I know they did that for Gotham, obviously, and just to get Bruce Wayne started with some training, but also they touched on it in the last incarnation of a Batman cartoon series.
So it seems to be the way that they've evolved the character to be more relevant.
And here's the
that he fits in too as the guy that physically trains Bruce Wayne.
And here's the kicker part: in the cartoon, Alfred was a real physical presence.
Really?
He was like a 6-footer.
Oh, wow.
He looked like a goon, but he's like, he's bald. He had the bowler hat.
Nice.
Okay. Give me an actor then, Simon. Who do you think? Rack your brain. Can you come up with one? Do you need
Jason Statham.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's
Okay.
a little younger than I would go, but holy shit, that would Jason Statham. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
I could see him like I don't know how he look in a bowler hat, but
probably like savage. Like I'd be afraid of him. Jason Statham is one of those guys that you dress him up in a $10,000 suit with a silk tie, and you put a bowler hat on him, and I'm more afraid of him than I am in a t-shirt. And
especially
jeans.
with that stoic look that he gives.
Yeah.
I can see Jason Statham.
Same. He likes to, like those. When you see like a nasty street guy in an expensive suit, it's just terrifying.
Yeah,
And it'd be the same thing like with a Batista. If you put Dave Batista in a suit, I'm
exactly.
terrified.
Look what he did in that James Bond movie.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, do you got one?
Well, as we're talking about this character evolving that way, which I really just love the concept of it, because it's almost that sort of hiding in plain sight sort of
Yep.
speak,
Well, they
right?
always touch on Alfred being a spy. I know they did it with a little hint of it in the Batman animated series. Like everyone didn't think likely of Alfred. They always think of him as a timid man, like prim and proper. But once they actually got to know him, like, no way, he did that. That surprise element. But who would you go with?
You know what? He might not have the physical presence, but I think he would have just the incredible intensity. Would be Ben Kingsley.
Oh yeah,
just because he would have that sort of that sort of sternness. Sexy Beast. He was just. Have you guys seen Sexy Beast?
I have.
No.
And I'm now. You're saying Ben Kingsley?
Yeah.
He's almost, unfortunately, maybe a 2 years too old for it now.
Well, I'm thinking like an older Alfred. Like I don't know. Like if
he could still be older, but
we're talking about that's his backstory, where he's not doing the training. He's the guy who did the training now.
Okay,
and now he's in the background. Is where my
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about yours?
I have one that is a pet pick of mine that when I thought of it, it's probably out of all my picks for any of the characters today, this one tickled me the most.
Really?
Because he's one of my favorite characters from Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay.
Ian Glenn, who played Ser Jorah.
Oh, yeah. He's just so likable.
He's likable. You could clean him up, and you could see him sort of blending in as a butler. And he sort of on Game of Thrones has at times played that sort of role as Khaleesi's sort of like assistant, sort of like, hey, I'll stand behind you. I'm sort of like your close bodyguard, but also your whatever. But also you can totally see him just like, and schooling a young Bruce Wayne of going, oh, you think you're tough? And then just really laying a whooping on him and going, yeah, now I was teaching you how to fight, but this is what happens in the real world. People fight dirty and just lay a whooping on them to kind of teach them street smarts.
Well, what was your take on Jeremy Irons as Alfred, though?
I really I like Jeremy Irons, and I think it could have drifted a little more in that direction. I think he's unfortunately got caught up in being in some really shitty Batman movies. You?
Yeah. Oh, I like Jeremy Irons
Yeah.
just as an actor, and I enjoy watching him. And he's certainly, he was certainly fine for me. But I wouldn't have thought of him as the sort of the presence as a sort of the bodyguard type. For me, he was more of the.
He was a butler.
Like he was a brain. Like he was the guy he's more than a butler in the sense that he was there to serve Batman, but he's also there as sort of a guy in the chair, so to speak. But I would not think of him as like the trainer like that.
Yeah.
That did not come to.
I could just, for whatever reason, it's maybe I'm making the movie in my head, but I could just see Ian Glenn doing that thing where Ian Glenn, like he does it, Ser Jorah does it on Game of Thrones, where he will beat people down, but he's not like he's getting angry. It's just like he's taking care of business. Like he doesn't get always super emotional. He can just beat somebody up or do whatever, but his face is still very calm and just like
no smiling,
exactly,
no
and just like very stern, but like reserved and controlled.
And he wears it well. Like that character. And I can't remember exactly which episode it is, but I remember Jamie was saying something to the effect of, there's only 5 people in this. There's only 5 people in this world who could actually beat me, but he actually doesn't name who those people are. And right away, Ser Jorah was one of the ones I thought about. I wonder if he's talking about him. Because he's just, as a character, he has got this backstory. Now, of course, we're talking about the character more than the actor. But,
but
he wears that.
Well.
But he wears that well, where he just walks that. He can walk that toughness. But he could also, I could see what you're saying. He could also come and be sort of refined.
How about Liam Neeson?
Yeah,
I could see it.
I like that.
Yeah, maybe not because of his previous connection with the Batman character.
Of course,
that's right.
But I could see it if you remove that and you're just saying we're just making a movie here in a bubble. Yeah, I could see Liam Neeson, but he's sort of already been that Batman trainer character.
Yeah, actually, quite literally.
Yeah.
What was I thinking?
No, whatever. Fire it away.
Yeah.
But well, there's always a lot of people to consider. Like, would you go as far as how about Daniel Craig?
Oh,
yeah, that'd be a good choice.
I could totally see that. Yeah, Daniel Craig. Yeah, absolutely, I could see that. In our real world, don't think Daniel Craig would ever sign up for another franchise like that. I think he's done with that after Bond. But in, like I said, making our movie in a bubble world here, I could totally see Daniel Craig playing that role.
Yeah. Well, and here I'm staring at your poster for Drive. Like, I think Ryan Gosling would be an interesting Batman too. Just because, again, he has that sort of intensity where, he can walk that line of, trying to do good, but, just there's a dark side to him.
Throw in a 5 o'clock shadow and I'm sold.
Yeah, you know what? I think I would
As we
really,
all look at the Drive poster.
exactly. Lovingly. I think the problem with casting Ryan Gosling is that then I'm going to want to see a lot more Bruce Wayne than Batman. Because as cool as he'd be in the cowl and fine doing those physical scenes, he's such an intense actor, and I love Ryan Gosling's acting so much that I would want to see those Bruce Wayne scenes where he's like, struggling with the idea that Bruce Wayne is the mask and Batman's the real character. Like, I would love to see him struggling in those things, like dealing with the real world when he's not wearing it, and just that showing that how uncomfortable he is as Bruce Wayne, where he's just generally more comfortable when he can put on the cowl and just punch problems. Yeah. But when he's Bruce Wayne, he has to deal with people and pretend to be this other thing. I think that could be so much fun, but I'd rather see him as a Bruce Wayne movie than a Batman movie.
I can see the setting with Ryan Gosling is like, you see him at some sort of fancy dinner party and all that, and it's a well-lit room and all that, and all of a sudden when someone does something that ticks him off, you see that little fade into the little dimness of the light. And you see that little frown and the eyes squint a bit where he's not pleased at all. I could see him pulling that off.
Yeah, totally. And where he's just if I was in my cowl right now, I could just punch you and this problem's resolved.
Yeah. And that's one thing I'm slowly learning about the film scene, like sometimes how the lighting could actually set the mood and the emotion and so forth and all. I'm not saying we're going to have like a red light background or anything, but I can see, little dim of the light showing that he's not pleased at all. But I think there's like so many ways we could approach this.
Yeah. And I think like if you go with Ryan Gosling, then the suit becomes that sort of, he has to wear it to intimidate more than, like sometimes you get the the big buff kind of characters. Like he would have to rely on the tools and the gizmos and the suit itself to do what he has to do.
The superhero scene is like I always like when you have a dual, when you have an identity to think of. It's always been hard for an actor to say, hey, I got to show I'm a Peter Parker, but I got to show I'm Spider-Man. I got to show I'm Bruce Wayne, but I got to show I'm Batman. So you got to change that. How they do the little on-off switch for that is amazing. So, but it's almost like what was it? Lois and Clark.
Yep.
Superman. It was more about Clark and Lois. And Superman shows in the background. It's almost like if we're gonna have Ryan Gosling as Bruce Wayne, it should be more of a Wayne Industries kind of thing, the daily life kind of thing, and Batman comes into the background when he needs to be.
Now, here's the thing too. I had Ryan Gosling, but on a different list.
Oh yeah,
I had him on a list, as a character, and I don't think you're gonna be familiar with it, Warren. You will be, Simon. The character Hugo Strange.
Don't know him.
Oh.
The Gotham City, he's like a psychiatrist, whatever.
Yes.
And he ends up figuring out, I don't remember, in some versions, he's like, Bruce Wayne is sort of like a patient of his or whatever.
Okay.
And he figures out that Bruce Wayne is Batman. And he basically and Hugo Strange is an insane guy himself. And so what he does is he plays all kinds of psychological games with Bruce Wayne with Batman because he wants to replace him.
Oh.
And eventually, so he tries to drive Bruce Wayne insane and crack him so that then he defeats him mentally. And so I had Ryan Gosling as a Hugo Strange variant, so go ahead.
Does he have like a villain name? Like, does he have
nope.
an alter ego name?
Nope.
Or just
he has no costume, no nothing. He's just Dr. Hugo Strange.
He's not like the psychiatrist?
Nope, he's just Hugo Strange, and he's just a guy.
It's a good story arc.
Yeah. Another actor I had for Hugo Strange that it was more interesting for me was Rami Malek.
Okay, yeah.
Because Rami Malek, because Hugo Strange is supposed to be a little bit, in the comics he's always drawn a little bit odd, maybe I just infer that myself from the looking, but I think Rami Malek could kind of like have those wide eyes, like kind of like you saw, like if you're familiar with him from Mr. Robot, he could kind of be a little bit, I think he could really play that. On the surface, I'm very normal, but underneath, I'm just a little bit like, left of center.
Yeah.
But thoughts?
That's a good choice,
Simon?
right there. I like the idea because like the Hugo Strange story arc has always been fascinating, like that determination to prove that Bruce Wayne is Batman. And I saw this. I got a kick out of this one. It was an action figure of Dr. Hugo Strange, but in the Batman costume.
Yeah, because I think he did that at one point. He put on the Batman costume, like because he wanted to replace him and be Gotham's savior.
Oh, wow.
He had like a savior complex.
He becomes so obsessed with Batman because he it's almost like, what makes you tick? Why are you doing this? I need to know. I need to find out.
Yeah. I think it would work better on a TV show, though, because I think that's the sort of storyline that would play out much better over an episodic TV show rather than trying to cram it and rush it through a 2-hour movie.
Oh, exactly.
But yeah, I don't know
well,
if we'll ever
Hugo
get a Batman
Strange has
show.
always been on Gotham, but I was happy that Hugo Strange came to life. I just didn't care for the story arc that they gave him.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, I know you didn't watch Gotham, but
No.
I didn't really care for what they were doing with Hugo Strange. They could have done so much more.
Okay. Well, I'm going to launch into something here, and I know it's before the show, before you got here, Simon. Warren and I were talking about this character, but then we didn't tell each other who our picks were.
Okay.
But I'm really fascinated to hear Warren's pick. We were discussing the Penguin. And Warren thought he had, and I hope I haven't built it up too big for you here.
No. Again, we were talking about Game of Thrones, and I think that was kind of part of the conversation was the fact that you could really cast anybody from Game of Thrones. And one of the characters, and I guess part of the discussion was around the fact that I think Peter Dinklage could play an amazing villain.
Oh my God!
Right, Peter Dinklage has that sort of intensity, and I think there's something about that.
His acting will bring it to the table.
Exactly, like it's and so I would that's where
I think that'd be a
lean
really interesting, totally new take on it. Like, you know, that the Penguin, I like the versions of him in the comics where he's like an arms dealer. And like a criminal mastermind,
the nightclub,
not exactly the nightclub, and he's a very so he has money and power and he controls people. And I think Dinklage, you think you hit on one there, he could really own that.
Yeah, and like the Penguin for me,
rather than that, we always think back to the Batman, Adam West Batman kind of goofy Penguin.
Yeah,
no, I kind of like.
Well, and the Penguin for me, like I say, is a character that I've always had with lots of affection. Like even though it was goofy, in '66, but like Burgess Meredith is one of my favorite all-time actors. Just enjoying, of course, him as Mickey as well as him in the Twilight Zone. And so when watching him in Batman, I was like, okay, this is really fun. But I do think Peter Dinklage is another actor I really like, and I think he can bring a tone to it that would sort of really be menacing.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
So is Penguin like your favorite Batman villain?
Well, of course, you have to give the wink and the nod to the Joker, but for me, the Penguin is a really close second. If not, you ask me on a different day, and I will say yes.
Wow.
Yeah, but again, of course, like the Joker is such larger than life villain that he, to me. Is there any villain out there that's better than the Joker? I don't know. Like to me, I would say that if you're going to go with the ultimate villain in comic books, to me, it's going to be like, okay, who do you think of first? Do you think
pin
of the
that
Joker,
for 1 second,
or do you think of Lex Luthor?
Pin that for 1 second, because I think that's a whole tangent, and I think we'll never come back to this. And then people will yell at me, going, "You never said who your Penguin pick was."
Yeah. Sorry. So let me dial it back.
Let's pin Joker for 1 second, because my Penguin pick is not nearly as interesting as yours. I don't think contextually now, and this is not mine. I did get this from a podcast several years ago with Kevin Smith.
Okay.
Kevin Smith suggested Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh,
and
wow.
if you think of his character in Mission Impossible 3, where he's basically like a billionaire arms dealer, but he's extremely menacing.
Yeah.
And he's like, tells Tom Cruise, "I'm going to find your wife and I'm going to hurt her," and whatever. And you think on that, and I'm like, that was a really awesome fantasy casting for me that obviously now can never happen because he passed. But
I actually heard his voice as you were talking there, actually.
did you hear it? It's kind of like, now if I try to do it, I'll fuck it up. Sorry. So I'm not going to do an impersonation here.
What? Since you mentioned him, it's that menacing attitude.
That version, if you think on Mission Impossible 3, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and make that the Penguin. of threatening people, and that's what he would do. Like, oh, you mess with me, well, I have money, so I can buy information, and I can find your family, I can find your kids or whatever, and everybody's got something, and I will get it.
And at that moment, that's when he raises the umbrella and the blade pops out.
Something. But I really like Warren's suggestion of Peter Dinklage because he's an awesome actor who could also totally own a thing like that.
Yeah.
Oh, he'd own it completely.
Yeah.
Totally.
But let's drift back into where you were going with the Joker.
Yeah.
Now, this is a thing that I cannot even... I was trying to think of who I would cast as a Joker, and I can't because we've seen it so much in the past 10 years that I don't think we should see a Joker right now, and I don't even know what you would do with it. So I could not even think of an actor because it is such an extreme character that I could not even... Because I don't know what the take on it's going to be. Like, do you have any idea of what they could even do with it?
I think for me, I don't know who would be the ideal actor, but I would say this. Anybody who's going to portray the Joker has to look at the past incarnations, and I probably said this before. You got to find a way to combine them or to metamorphosize it.
You're right.
But also at the same time, whoever the person may be, you're going to have to take method acting to a whole new level that surpasses Heath Ledger.
Wow.
And I don't think I can't think of anybody who could actually want to go that distance like that with that character.
Yeah, and what just pops in my head too is, as you mentioned, Heath Ledger is, earlier we talked about Michael Keaton and all the backlash that he got when he was first announced that he was going to be that character. I remember when Heath Ledger was announced that he was going to be the Joker.
Again, that was similar. People were like, how is he going to be the Joker?
Why is that teen
and
heartthrob?
People think it's the definitive one now.
Exactly, and it just makes me think now in a larger context that, it doesn't matter who gets cast in any of these roles or who gets cast as Batman, they better have an armor on for Twitter because there's going to be a backlash, regardless of who it is.
Yeah.
But to come back to the Joker piece, I think you nailed it. You're dead on in the fact that you'd have to find some balance in there somewhere because I think there's a spectrum established. And I don't think there's any wiggle room to go, more comical than, let's say, Cesar Romero, or more darker than Heath Ledger, because I'm not sure if that character will exist within those goalposts, so to speak. And so to kind of find a blend in there, find another sort of take within that storyline, I think might be the way to go.
I think we already saw like a massive misfire with Jared Leto.
Yeah.
And I don't blame Jared Leto. He's a fantastic actor. But I think right now, anybody taking on the role of the Joker, and I don't know what this Joaquin Phoenix thing is going to be like, but it's almost like they're not creating a character, or they're having to create a character by looking at all these other things, and I can't do that, and I can't do this, and if I do this, people will say I'm being Romero, and if I go a little too much this way, people will say I'm being Heath Ledger. It's an impossible thing right now. Like, you can't make... Acting is making choices, and what choice do you make with the Joker without possibly being compared or contrasted to somebody else and told you're either copying them or you're not doing it right? That it needs to fade from people's mind for a while.
I find with some actors, and I'm going to go with Jared Leto, it's almost like, all I have to do is wear white makeup, green hair, and laugh a lot. Mm-hmm. And there's more to it. Yeah, exactly. You gotta make. It's almost like you don't have to make sense, but you have to but it makes sense to the Joker.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm still learning about the acting scene as much as I can, and the more I read up on like method acting, and I look at guys like Christian Bale and others like him who are method actors. Oh, what was that? Who was the other actor that just retired not too long ago?
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Daniel Day-Lewis, like another method actor and all that. And like to me, it's like you have to have some major brain power, mental skills to pull off this character. That's just me taking.
It's a difficult character to inhabit.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's where, for me, the magic of Batman is that, and maybe we were talking about earlier, that is there a better villain than the Joker? Maybe I would rephrase that to say, is there a better fight in comics in terms of hero versus villain than Batman versus Joker, with kind of what they're doing, what they sort of bring to the table and what they bring out of each other, in the sense that here's the villain that is absolute chaos, right? There's like, who knows what can happen, and then then you have Batman with his own arc of trying to walk the balance between the light and the dark and trying to keep it together, not to all of a sudden be dragged down by that by that villain, because ultimately, the Joker can bring that out of him probably more than any other character, other villain can, of him crossing the line of not having any good left because of what Batman would want to do to the Joker, and I find that storyline and that dance that they bring out in each other probably the most interesting out of all the superheroes and all the villains. And so I guess for me, that I would say is why I think I lean into the Joker as the best villain, just because I like that dance that these two characters do.
Like when writers stay true to Batman's ethos of he's got that one rule of he won't kill.
Exactly.
But then the Joker is this guy that it's like the only way you can stop me is to kill me, because I will always escape from Arkham Asylum and I always bring a new horror to Gotham City. And Joker is almost like my favorite iterations of Joker are when he's not doing it because he wants money. He's not doing it because he wants to kill people. He's just trying to. He's like basically like, I'm going to get you to break that rule. I'm gonna push it to the point of where you're gonna kill me to stop me.
Well, you gotta
just
have
to prove
goals.
the point. Yeah, exactly. And that's just so crazy. It's so wrapped up in that Batman won't kill him, but Joker won't stop. And it's like, what do you do? And it's like it can never. One of them has to die.
Yeah. And, an actor, which I'm so looking forward to this summer, is Jake Gyllenhaal, who's going to be Mysterio.
Mysterio, yeah.
But he might be one I would have said. I would be interested to see what Jake Gyllenhaal would have done with the Joker. Only, one of the reasons being, not some of the films that he's done over recent years and some of the darkness of his journey in those characters.
Yeah, I would totally agree.
Yeah.
Another set of villains. I know we're only supposed to be talking about the realm of Batman, but one of the many story arcs I always enjoyed has always been the doppelgangers.
Oh, yeah.
$6 Million Man versus the $7 Million Man.
Right.
Kit versus Carr. Character Captain Kirk, evil Captain Kirk. I always enjoyed the doppelgangers. I would love to see a doppelganger villains going against Batman and Robin in a movie.
What about Batman versus Hush?
Hush
in the comics, isn't he not a character that wasn't he like hypothetically or hinted at being like Batman's half brother that Thomas Wayne had an affair and he was Tommy. I can't remember what his last name was. Tommy Elliott, and he grew up and he trained himself to sort of be like the opposite of Batman.
Supposedly, I remember.
Wasn't that not Long Halloween? Hush was the actual book. Yeah.
He was apparently Bruce Wayne's best friend from school on, and I think the half brother bit played a part with that too. I would love to see it, but the ones I had in mind was actually Wrath and Scorn.
Not familiar.
Oh, they're the doppelgangers of Batman and Robin, and they're supposed to be the Batman and Robin for the villains.
Okay.
And Batman's trying to stop, say, the Penguin. Wrath and Scorn will come in and stop Batman from trying to catch the Penguin.
Oh wow!
And it's like there's been I think 3 or 4 story arcs that I've read where Wrath and Scorn, I think it's Wrath and Scorn, that tried to stop Batman and Robin. And there's an episode. There was only been one episode in the cartoon of the Batman where you see Wrath and Scorn. So you see Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson going for a hike with the two brothers that are they're doppelgangers, and they're all having fun and all that. Next, they go to the next scene and they're trying to stop each other. So I wouldn't mind seeing a doppelganger story arc like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like right now, it's like we got a whole bunch of great talent that's out there.
Yeah.
Whether they're no names or brand names, but at the same time, I like all our ideas.
Yeah, I haven't really heard one today that I really don't like.
That's true,
I think we just made 10. I think we got 10 years.
I think my two. Yeah, I think my favorites were I'm kind of really tickled by Simon's suggestion of getting an unknown for Batman.
Yeah.
I really like Peter Dinklage as Penguin. Your idea, and to pump my own tires, I really like Ian Glenn as Alfred. So I want to make a movie with Ian Glenn as the Alfred to the unknown actor Batman, and they're waging war against Penguin's organized crime and arms dealing gang, and maybe with a side of Nightwing in there fighting kung fu.
Yeah, I was really excited by our Nightwing conversation.
I'm excited for this movie already.
Yeah. And I think we could probably we could talk about this all night, but I think we'll bring it in for a landing there. Maybe we'll revisit this sometime in the future. Maybe when there is some casting announcements for the new Batman and we see what more it is, maybe we'll pull that apart someday. But once again, guys, it was awesome to have the OG crew back together for a reunion
episode
here.
one.
We got to
Back
do it
again.
more often.
Yeah.
So thanks for popping in, and I know you'll both be back again. And until next time, and until we actually hear who is cast as the Batman, maybe I'm Batman.